good people. It is David Ault, and I'm thrilled and honored to welcome you to The Gathering. I am feeling urged inside to attempt to talk to you about something that appears to be complicated. I feel that's kind of a fun challenge, and I want to see if I can break it down or make it granular enough to maybe pique your interest. And so I hope that you will stick around for the few minutes that I take you on this little journey. It has to start with the idea of reincarnation. And so, wherever you stand in your understanding of or belief in reincarnation is obviously going to affect the way in which this hits you. So, let's determine that. Not everybody's going to hear it the same way. So, sometime I believe early last year, I heard a hyphenated word, a phrase that really brought a lot of clarity to me in a way that I had never considered before. It was interesting to me that one little hyphenated phrase, word, would alter me so dramatically. And it was meta incarnation. Meta incarnation. The person that I heard it from was this spiritual teacher by the name of Matt Kahn. And my mind did one of those kinds of things when I heard it, because meta incarnation then is meta means self-referential, so referring to the self. And so if you're referring to the incarnation of the self or the personality that you know yourself to be now, your name, your identity, where you stand in the world, your relationship, married, mother, worker, astrology sign, all of those kinds of things. So self-referential to the self is offering up the supposition that I have been doing this as this identity endless amounts of time. That's one aspect of this idea of the eternality of the journey of the soul. Meaning that I've been here before, I've been doing David for God knows how many times. That you've been doing you all kinds of times, uncountable times. And so when you think about it in those terms, it means then that something that we might have like deja vu does not mean the familiarity of the environment is from another incarnation or a past life as another identity. It means that you are overlaying and remembering something that you have done as you. And so I used to love the way in which Ram Dass would say, but I never really got it. He would open up a lecture somewhere in a town somewhere with a collection of people somewhere that he had never been to. And he would say, "It's wonderful to see you all again." That's an example of meta incarnation, meaning that he was playing with the idea or his belief that he's been there before, the lecture's already happened, and the interfacing and the connection with those people, again, has already happened. So that's a big chunk off the bat to ask you to consider that you have done you countless times, maybe tens of thousands of times. And what's the point then of doing that? Well, I look at it from this perception point, or breaking it down and phrasing it like this. It depends on where you stand. So where I stand now as David, in my understanding of me, of spirituality, of experience, is accumulation of all of those experiences, all of those quests, all of the journey of longing, all of the seeking. It is a bundle that defines or interprets my ability to perceive. It's where I stand. You, same way. You are recalling, and your current level of wisdom is all a bundle of where you stand, meaning, again, your life's experiences. And perhaps not just this life's experiences, but the accumulation of your meta incarnation. And so, the way that I make this fun and interesting is that now every time I face a human dense experience like doubt, every time I am experiencing and feeling doubt, I now have an ability to play with it differently. I can I can play with it again because of where I stand. I can play with it by saying the thing that is doubting within me is not me. I am not the actor in this relationship with doubt. I can now play with, and I believe that I've accumulated enough with regards to where I stand to be able to consider that and go, let me witness what the doubt is and then move forward anyway. I got to say that again. Doubt. We all have doubts. Doubts then propel us in our decision making. Doubts can be very heavy and debilitating depending upon where we stand. So I'm giving you the hypothesis that where I stand, David, where I stand, I have a little bit of traction because I am looking at all of the things that I have been willing to lean into that have challenged doubt, self-doubt, and I have, quote, quote, done it anyway. And by doing it anyway, I have been able to chisel a little bit from the big monumental stone of doubt so that it's not as impenetrable as I thought. But that's because of where I stand. You can interpret this phrase where I stand as experience, but it's more than that. It's an accumulation. It's an accumulation of leaning into the doubt in order to diffuse it. It's not identifying me, David, as the person being debilitated by the doubt, but it's the actor. I'm not the actor. David is the actor, but it's something beyond the identity of the actor that is being willing to lean in. Because if I solely relied on me as David, I would be overcome by practicalities. And practicalities are just human inventions that say you shouldn't do that. Practicalities are these things that we call risks, and we walk around sort of trying to protect ourselves from the riskiness of this life. Depending upon where you stand, riskiness is real. Depending upon where you stand, doubt is healthy. Where I stand, I've moved the needle just a little bit. It's not boastful. It's just I've moved the needle just a little bit to see that all doubt is a welcoming challenge. That's it. And so doubt then is your experience with doubt, your relationship with doubt depends upon where you stand. So going back to a meta incarnation, it means that how many times have you been doing you? You've reached this same decision point. Let's call it applying for a job. Let's say that you have applied for this job in the meta incarnation as you tens of thousands of times. But what has happened in the progression of that is that you were oblivious to the job, you became aware of the job. It's sort of like you did you 10,000 times with your head down, oblivious to the job. Then the next 25,000 times you were aware of the job but did not act upon it because of doubt. Then the next 100,000 times you um took this thing called an application and you filled it out, but you didn't submit it. You start to see where I'm going with this. It took hundreds of thousands of times to get you to act. It took me hundreds of thousands of times to act, to to lean into the doubt in a degree that would then challenge it. You could take a biblical story like David and Goliath, and you could look at that narrative as an allegory of you and I. And that here within the story is an ogre, a beast, who is wreaking havoc and fear upon a populace by all kinds of threats. And no one within the community is willing to stand up in front of the beast or the ogre to challenge it. And you could say that this cycle of challenge, this beast overriding this community, bringing fear mongering and all kinds of oppression, has been an endless loop until consciousness evolved enough that someone named David decided to step out of the commonality of the oppression and challenge the ogre. And how many times did it take for this archetype of this guy David to actually not only consider challenging it, but then actually walking and facing the beast? And then the tool that he used, the slingshot, to conquer the oppression. It's an allegory, right? And so doubt then is sort of, and all the variations of doubt, all the nuances of doubt are sort of like your Goliath, my Goliath. And there could be countless lifetimes as us that we simply did not challenge the Goliath until we did, until we got the idea of doing it, until we decided that we would submit the application, even though this actor within us, this dense thought, told us that we weren't good enough or qualified enough. Do you see? And so we keep moving in this meta incarnation. We actually keep doing us until what? So the question is why? Why do we keep coming back as us and doing this? Because it is to evolve into that place within us that no longer identifies as the actor within us, the identity of the oppressor or the victim. And so we realize that what we are is something that is the creator, not the thing that is being created or being victimized. How many times do we have to do this until we get to the pivotal understanding that what you and I are vessels of the creator? And until we learn that lesson, we keep doing this. So therein, to me, is the fuel, even the desire. So I think as we continue to do this, there dwindles the human desire of wanting something. But right now, there is still within me a desire to want to live out this incarnation enough that doubt then is no longer a presence in my life. I'm not quite there yet. So I'm probably going to have to keep doing this some more. But what a fun thing to be able to practice now. That's a lot, isn't it? So my beloved J. Ram and I went to a musical here in Atlanta at the Fox Theater. It's called Hadestown, and it's an extraordinary musical. The music is just incredible, based on Greek mythology. And it was on a Friday night here in Atlanta. The Fox Theater, I had to look this up, has 4,600 and something seats. The place was completely sold out. Not a seat left. And I can tell you that because we were in the nosebleed sections and we were looking down and everything was at capacity. And the story, the musical, the story was so electrifying about how Orpheus is played as this simpleton, but really what he is the archetype of pure intent. He's the archetype of that which is the untainted nature of our connection to the one. And so he's a poet, and he sings the song of the beloved. He sings the song of the connection. But the play opens with the song being unfinished. Something needs to occur within his path, his life, in order to help facilitate the song being finished. And in enters Persephone, the beautiful girl that instantaneously he falls in love with. Instantaneously. And the comic humor about that is done very well. And Persephone is the archetype of the one who is burdened by life, who is hungry and cold and starving and believes the world to be an awful place. But through the presence of Orpheus, her heart opens and she is reignited with a sense of hope. And she encourages Orpheus to finish the song. Orpheus then goes about the act of finishing the song. And so, jumping through the story, the seasons change and winter comes again, and winter representing life's hardships. So you have to remember that where Persephone stands is still very seduced by the hardship. Where she stands, she is very much at the effect of the changing of things, whereas Orpheus is sort of in this space of it doesn't matter if it's winter, love prevails. So because she is at the effect of this and the cycle of winter comes, the hunger, again, the resurrection of her fear, causes her to make a deal with the devil, Hades, where what she is offered is stability in hell, stability of food in the belly and a safe place to be. What she doesn't understand is how that form of hell is the thing that just shrivels the soul, because there's no escape from that. It is, we could call it capitalism. We could call it being at the mercy of this ideology of security. But that's what Persephone personifies. And because in a weak moment, she sells herself to that security, she is now bound to remain in this place called hell. And Orpheus now is overcome with sorrow, and he attempts to go on the journey into hell to rescue her. That's what love does. He presses against all rationale, everything that tells him this journey is impossible. And so he's going to save the thing that he loves, because he is led by his heart. He is led by the impulse of the song. The song. And so off he goes on this journey. And he gets there and he arrives there. And the funny thing is that he is beaten. He is challenged by Hades himself, the devil himself. But that particular circumstance gives him the full song. In other words, walking into this doubt, into this horror, is the thing that allows the fullness of the song to enter through him. And he sings the song in hell. And because he sings the song in hell, it makes the devil, Hades, make an exception that he and Persephone may leave. See, there was a rule that they couldn't leave. He allows them to be able to leave and to go back into their world together, with one exception. And that is that they can't walk side by side on the journey back. Orpheus must lead and Persephone must follow. And if Orpheus ever turns around to check on Persephone, then she is bound to hell for eternity. And so that means that through all of the circumstance of the journey, he cannot look over his shoulder. He cannot succumb to doubt and security to make sure that she's there. He must persevere forward in full faith that she is with him. And so in this journey, they get to the very precipice, the threshold of returning to their world together. And just in the moment, he can't hear her, he can't feel her, and that uncertainty causes him to turn around. And in that moment, she is banished back. In the Fox Theater, with 4,600 and something people, the collective gasp was profound. It told me how humanity can be drawn into love. It told me how humanity can collectively be drawn into this desire for us to sing the song of our soul. And when it falls apart, you could feel the sorrow, even though everyone knows the mythology, everyone knows the story. They know that his doubt will overtake him. But then the musical, instead of ending there, it did this thing where the narrator, who is Hermes, says one continues to sing the song anyway. Even though one knows the story of Orpheus and Persephone, that which is the archetype of Orpheus continues to try to once again finish the song, even though it goes back to the unfinished nature of it. And so that's how the play ends. And all of a sudden you see Persephone enter again as if for the first time, and you see Orpheus instantly fall in love again, and that loop starts over again. And J. Ram and I looked at each other, because this is something we talk about all the time, because we can relate to where we stand now in our lives, in our journey of reconnecting. I say reconnecting because there is this awareness that we have been doing this for lifetimes, of reconnecting in the bliss of that. And we went, wow. It meant that he and I were willing to come back once again and to go through our own respective journeys of hell, to once again come together and find ourselves. And we are impressed upon the idea that now when doubt arises, will we turn our heads back and look at it from the old meta-incarnation? Or are we willing to together walk through, whether one is leading in behind or we switch places, to lead each other across the threshold into a new experience? And we walked away from that musical just high as a kite, thinking, what genius, what brilliance. That's the beauty of art, to be able to move people so collectively. And I couldn't wait to get home to Google the story about the composer, writer of the musical, only to learn that her influence and her theme for her was about climate change. Again, an amazing thing to to put into or infuse in a musical, but that we saw it from a completely different layer. And it made us wonder, of all the 4,000 plus people who gasped, what was their interpretation of that? So, my message to you today is about how many times you've been doing this and about your relationship with doubt and understanding that it depends upon where you stand. And if where you stand right now is a position that is hooked into or seduced by security and the need for security, that's okay. That's where you stand. And to begin to see if understanding that what you're being called to do is to let go of that a little bit, is to lean into this thing of doubt. You see, doubt doesn't represent the same thing for everybody because we're all standing in different positions, relational positions with doubt. So as you look upon this year and as you look at what's before you, as you look at what is sort of in the parking lot of the things that weigh heavy upon you and you are filled with doubt, particularly things like what's going to happen to me as I age, what's going to happen to me. Those are all kinds of things that say, regardless of that, are you willing to finish the song? Are you willing to finish the song of your heart and to sing it out in your particular realm of hell, whatever that might be? And as you are willing to do that at your level, then the position of where you stand with doubt changes. And you and I begin to move a little bit closer to not being the actor, but being the one who understands and knows and is aligned with the one. I no longer have to identify necessarily with all of the things of David, this David, but I can begin to identify with the soul of me as the one who is aligned with that which is the Creator, which allows me to walk amongst the fields of doubt without any fear. And that is freedom. May you think about this today. Where do you stand? Where are you standing? And if where you are standing is frequently paralyzed by doubt, then you have a delicious opportunity before you. Doesn't have to be complicated, doesn't have to require anything other than for you to be able to name the doubt and then to walk into it and find a way to sing your song of liberation. You'll know what that means. You will be able to compose that for yourself simply from your willingness to go into the territory that you perhaps hundreds of thousands of times were not willing to go into. What a beautiful thing. What a remarkable journey. I walk with you. Blessings.